Good afternoon. My name is John with the Pine Tree. I have the great pleasure of being here with Scott Clan. Now, thank you for letting us invade the front of your tasting room here.
Thanks for having me, John.
Now, Scott is also, in addition to being the winemaker and owner of Newsom Harlow, is also the president of the CWA this year. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Now, we're going to start what we hope will be a series. If anybody else will want to talk to us. But no,
if you're watching this, there will be more.
Of a series where we sit down and talk with people involved in the wine industry here locally. And one, I think, is there's some great stories involved. So I think they'll have something from some story value. And hopefully, if you're watching this down in the Bay Area or Valley and you're planning your weekend trips, we can convince you to come up here and spend money, right?
Enjoy wine.
Yes, right. Okay, so we would, I was more crass, see, so that way, but anyway, now tell us what's going on with CWA and also...
Well, a lot of really cool things are happening with CWA right now. The organization has been through, it's been around for over 15 years. I think that the organization has been in place for somewhere around 17 to 20 years. I should probably know that, but I think I'm real close in that window. And it was started by a group of winery owners that were here back in the day, that were people like Stephen Liz Milliere from Milliere, Gay Callan from Chatham, Garden Steveno from Steveno Winery, Dave and Jan Olson, the original owners of Black Sheep, were a very big part of starting it up. Indian Rock and a couple other, there was about 5 or 6 wineries that started it up, and it was basically, at the time, it was, hey, let's get together and see how we can help promote our area, see what we can do to give back to the community that has been so supportive of us. It continues to be the same organization, but the community now is so much larger, and there's so many more wineries, and our tourism base is so much bigger, and it's the same organization to the nth degree.
In some ways, that just means that it's worked, right?
It has worked. Hopefully, it has worked with a little bit of help from us, and not in spite of us. But I think the ideals of the organization are still what they were when it first started out, to promote Calaveras wines, to promote the Calaveras County area as a tourism destination. Right. And I think we've reaped the benefits of some of the work that those pioneers worked on 15 and 20 years ago. It was really a lot of really good vision to start the organization.
Now, how many member wineries are there now?
There are 22 member wineries. Okay. With 3 of them have 2 tasting rooms, so there's 25 tasting rooms.
Got it.
There are 2 or 3 other wineries that aren't part of the organization that we are hoping within their new wineries. Sure. That we're hoping over the next couple of years will become a part of the organization.
Very nice. Now you guys have had, the last few years, there's even the last few weeks, there's been even tasting rooms opening in downtown Murphy.
Yeah. 3 in the last month or 2. Yeah.
It's so. As far as if somebody's coming up here, as far as within walking distance here on Main Street, you've got probably how many tasting rooms now?
Within walking distance here on Main Street, you can hit 19 tasting rooms.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing for the town of Murphy's. Right. It can be a little bit challenging from a business standpoint, because where 3 years ago I had 10 competitors, I now have 18 competitors. But that's okay. It's all part of. No, I understand. It's all part of what's going on here, and not just in Murphy's, but in Calaveras in general. And people are coming here to pay more attention to more of the agricultural activities that are going on here than just wineries. There's restaurants that are using great local foods. There's a cashmere company that you can tour. There's a vineyard, a horseback vineyard tour company putting on tours. There's a huge list of what we're calling agritourism businesses. That's a big part of what's going to happen here in the next 5 or 10 years.
Now, I think one of the things that's helped Calaveras County stand out is it's still more approachable here, right? Isn't that one of the?
Yeah, it is. It's less approachable than I think it was 5 to 10 years ago. Right. That's the nature of getting more people in this area.
Understood.
So
Yeah.
if we're going to keep some of that, we have to work very hard. We have to be very careful about how we portray ourselves. That's the fine line. We don't. Nobody up here wants this to become another, another major wine region. But
Yeah.
we want it to be. We want the wine business to be part of the Calaveras community in general.
Yeah.
So we're bringing people up here for more than just one thing.
Understood. Now, what are the big for CWA wise? What are the big events for every year for the organization? What are the big high points for the year?
Well, we've got one coming up this weekend, which is President's Wine Weekend.
Right.
It's Saturday and Sunday, the 14th and 15th. And what it is an event where all the wineries, or most of the wineries, are open and have special barrel samplings of special wines that they're working on, some food that they've put together. Maybe it's not a barrel sample, maybe it's a library tasting.
Now, will Abe and George be visiting the wineries again this year?
Abe and George will be visiting the wineries, and the idea is that customers, wine fans, will come up and you buy a $10 glass at any one of the wineries, and that glass, you go around to the wineries, and at that glass at each winery will get you in to taste like the barrel sample or the library wine or a pre-release tasting, something special. And then obviously all the wineries have food, and there's a bit of a President's Day celebration going on. And this year it happens to fall on Valentine's Day too.
So it's kind of the double.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's, and we think it's going to be very busy this weekend because of that.
Yeah.
At least we're hoping so.
Yeah. Now, what are the other, because we're going to talk to him about his business, but I just want to touch a little bit more on the organization. Now, that's one of your big, now you have Passport Weekend. What are the big key things for the...
Well, we've got a couple of a few big events. A new event that we just started last year, which began from another tasting type of event, has morphed into what we're calling Calaveras Wine, Grape, and Gourmet.
Right.
It's held at the fairgrounds, and it's on Saturday, March 7th. And people will buy tickets. They'll come in, and there will be booths set up with all kinds of different, a bunch of different CWA wineries. Calaveras restaurants will be taking part. They'll have booths where they're putting together some appetizer or some menu item of theirs, what they're famous for. A lot of restaurants will be paired with wineries, so you're tasting a wine specifically paired with that appetizer.
Nice.
Most importantly, there are 4 seminars throughout that day that are going to be fantastic. One of them is a cheese and wine pairing course that's taught by a lady named Judy Creighton, who is she's the cheesemonger. She's a very well-known cheese expert here in the state of California. Been teaching courses on the subject for I don't know how long. I believe it's decades. If it's not, she'll probably kill me for that. But I believe it's at least that long, and she's just a really, really knowledgeable cheese lady. Another course is being taught by Tom Bender, who is the wine buyer down at O'Brien's Market in Modesto.
Got it.
But he's got a big history. He lives in Sonora. He's got a big history up here in Columbia. He ran the Columbia City Hotel for 30 years, I believe. And very wine knowledgeable guy, and he's teaching a course on building a wine aroma profile, starting to recognize similarities through wines and trying to build a library in your head of wine aromas. Another one is being taught by Steve Cullum, who's teaching a course on, he's a local vineyard manager, manages a bunch of vineyards in the area, and he's teaching a course on building a backyard vineyard, a Le Petit Vignette, if you will. And he's a really knowledgeable vineyard guy, and he knows how to speak to people on a pretty basic level on how to get this done. So there's another one that I can't recall what it is, but suffice to say, there's a bunch of really good seminars that are going to get some good information.
Yeah, that also had, I mean, even the booths from some, even the almost agricultural vendors and things like that.
Yeah.
Kind of is a trade show aspect of that as well.
It's exactly the case. There are what we are calling our industry partners in CWA that all they offer some service to vineyard people or wine people, whether it's home vineyards, home winemakers, all the way through the large-scale wineries in the area like Ironstone and Stephen and Chatham as well. So it's going to be it's a day for all
Oh yeah.
for all folks. Yeah.
They have events scattered throughout the year, and culminating with the really small the grape stomp, right? Isn't that the
Before we have the grape stomp, we have passport weekend,
right? The passport
and
weekend,
which is great. Where people come, you buy a passport and
Yeah.
you tour around to the wineries for a couple of days, and you also have we have a Friday night big gathering in Murphy's Park, right behind Newsom Harlow Tasting Room.
Which that is, I mean, and that's the nice thing about Murphy's is you have Murphy's.
Yeah.
I mean, because with the community park behind there, it's that's a slice of Americana. That's
Exactly.
hard to,
So Passport starts that evening in the park
Yeah.
with what we call a Taste the World of Calaveras,
Mhm.
where all the wineries are in the park with one wine each, and they're broken out into 5 different regions. One of the great things we have up here in our our vineyard areas and our soils
Right.
is the ability to have quite a bit of diversity. So we're growing everything here from Italian varietals to Rhone varietals to Spanish varietals to the more traditional French varietals. And so they'll be broken out into those 5 regions,
Mhm.
4 or 5 wineries at a station, each pouring one wine, and then there will be food from that region to match those wines. at
Oh,
that
very
station.
cool.
That's very cool.
Very
and then
cool.
the next day is the standard passport
Right.
festivities,
Mhm.
where you go from each winery, you get your book stamped, you taste wines at each winery. They'll all have some sort of special deal, or barrel samples, or cool foods,
Right.
all the above.
Yeah.
So it's always a great weekend. And then yes, finally, the very small, minuscule attendance,
Quaint.
quaint little grape stomp, which has turned into upwards between the grape stomp and the street fair on the same day. We're
Oh,
talking, 10,000 people in Murphy's.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think it's rivaled. I mean, it only is surpassed by Irish Day.
Right.
Maybe it's the,
No, I think it
it
surpasses
probably does
Irish
surpass.
Day.
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you take into mind the festivities in the park with the
True.
actual stomp and the street fair, it's
single
it's the
largest
biggest
event,
event
yeah.
in at least in the Murphy's area.
Yeah.
It's probably the largest event in the county, short of the Calaveras County Fair.
And if you want to watch it, we've got hours of video on the site, literally, of.
There's some great videos.
Yeah,
There's some great- it's a great time.
stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now, you have quite a history in the wine industry here in the county. I mean, you've almost grown up with it, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I grew up here in Calaveras.
Yeah.
So, and went away for a little bit after high school. But when I
Mhm.
came back, immediately fell into the wine business. So I've been doing this here now for 17 years.
Now, you are, a wonderful wineman. Tell us how did you get into it? I mean, what do you think is important?
Oh, I fell into it. It was dumb luck. I had moved back here after I was gone down in college for 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
and moved back here just kind of trying to
That's
figure
pretty
out.
short. Most people are spending longer than that now.
Yeah, well,
No.
I didn't spend the whole time in college,
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't come close to finishing.
Oh,
it.
okay.
When I came back, I was kind of just looking for stuff to do, and just coincidentally fell into the wine business. My father owns a print shop, and somebody that he worked with, the lady that he worked with, Jan Hovey, was
Mhm.
married to Chuck Hovey, who
Mhm.
was the longtime winemaker out
Right.
at Stephen-O. And I went out just looking for something to do. Listen, I didn't know squat about wine at this point. I thought Chardonnay was some guy that had his wine everywhere.
Got it.
I
Got
thought
it.
the older a white Zinfandel was, and the oranger it was, the better it probably was. That's how much I knew about wine. But I fell into it and just getting a job to help out for Crush, the harvest period. And when Crush wound down, I just kept finding things to do, and they kept looking the other way and let me do them. So after a while, I worked my way up to assistant winemaker there. I was at Stephen-O for 6 years, and moved over to Chatham, and I was the winemaker at Chatham for about 3.5 years, 4 years. And after that,
Is that before they went to the all-female crew? Was that
no, that was the
Just
beginning.
kidding. That's another side story.
That was the beginning of it. There was yes, I worked with many women.
Got it. And they even have some token males there now again, don't they?
They do, yeah. It's back to some token males. So I was there for 4 years. I had a great time there, and it was there. While I was there, I started with a partner of mine. Started working on Newsom Harlow.
Right.
And began that in 2000, and did that kind of concurrently for a couple of years. And then in 2002, went to work over at Twisted Oak to build the Twisted Oak Winery
Yeah.
and the wine program there, and continue with the Newsom Harlow stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of a nice story on the Twisted Oak, is because the facility that is out there now, I mean, not only do you do all the Twisted Oak wines and everything else, but that's also, you guys do a lot of really nice, I mean, it's a very nice facility. I mean, tell us a little bit about, I mean, you guys, I don't know enough about it, but I know that you can do a lot of nice things there.
There's a lot of cool things about the facility. We took our time designing it and building it. But it's a very cool, very easily workable, very practical winery. It's built on a gravity flow philosophy, so we have 4 levels that the fruit or the wine travels downhill most of the time.
Right.
Only right towards the end of a wine's life are we really doing much humping with it. So the important point in producing wine is being as gentle with it as possible, especially early on. And we were very fortunate to come up with find a piece of property that had a good slope, and we were able to build this 4-level gravity flow facility.
Right.
And now we're doing cool things like very obscure varietals, up and coming varietals, and we're doing some custom crush work for some other wineries.
Right.
We make the Tanner wines there,
Okay.
all off of the Tanner vineyard, fantastic vineyard. And so it's a great place, and it's easy to make wine there.
Yeah, and that's kind of your lab. That's where it all gets done.
That's where it all starts. Yeah. Everything begins there.
Yeah. Now, if somebody's coming up and say they're learning about wines, and what are some of the, for people coming up here to experience here, what are things to remember? What do you think they should experience, and what do what kind of?
That's a great question. I think it's important to come up here and there's a lot of people that have been coming up here for a long time, and they all have their favorite wineries to go to. But I think it's really important for us to focus on, for visitors to try to get a good understanding of the sheer diversity of what we can do here. There are wineries that are just doing Italian varietals, wineries that are just doing Spanish varietals, wineries that are just doing Rhone varietals, and those are all Mediterranean varietals. They tend to do really well in a climate like ours, a very arid, continental climate type of situation. So I think it's important for people to, experiment with all the different wineries, and if you like Italian varietals, you could pick 4 or 5 wineries that and put together a day where you can hit those Italian varietals.
It's Italian varietal day.
Exactly. We've even with CWA, with our new maps, we've even separated wineries out into little tours, based on where they are geographically. And you should come and pick up a map and do that tour.
Okay.
Rather than, go see the wineries you like, but
branch out
experiment a little bit, branch out a little bit, try to break it up. Yeah.
Now, you've had some very nice award-winning. What's what would you say is your, not claim to fame, but what would you like people to know about Newsom Harlow?
A great question. We focus on very California varietals. Petit Syrah, Zinfandel is our biggest varietal. We make 4 Zinfandels, 3 single vineyard Zinfandels, and then a blend of 3 different Zinfandels. So Zin is probably our biggest, what we're mostly known for. The Petit Syrah we've been doing for a little while. And for whites we do Sauvignon Blanc. We're very pleased with all 3 of those varietals. Do a couple other things here and there, but those 3 are the main focus.
Right. Now, what geographic area are your wines distributed in? Is it mostly?
With the Newsom Harlow brand, we make about 3,000 cases a year.
Okay.
And we sell a large amount of them through the taster room. We also sell to the local region directly. Listen, I grew up here. The local community I've been very fortunate. They've been very supportive and continue to be that way. So we have a lot of success in the local area with all the restaurants here and the markets and stuff like that. But we also are starting to do a really good job of selling wines in the Central Valley area and the East Bay and South Bay. Those are areas where we tend here in Calaveras to get a lot of visitors from.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see some pull through in those regions where we're able to get stuff in shops and people are recognizing the label and picking them up and sharing them with their friends, and their friends are coming up here. So that kind of momentum is certainly kicking in with the brand.
All right. We'd like to thank you. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we can provide some good information in these little chats here going forward. And we thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.